Everyone, I have a problem. I can't stop doing these fucking tier lists. Every time somebody sends me one, I immediately get excited because it's like, oh shit, thing I recognize and would be fun to do tier list of. But then I'm like, oh fuck, this is going to take an eternity. Thankfully, this is the Mucore album ranker. And there's a significant number of these that I've just never heard of or not listened to at the very least. So, it'll be easy enough to categorize a lot of it under haven't heard, but I'm excited to talk about all the ones I have. I've probably heard like at least 40% of these, and there's a lot of albums that I do like in here. So, alright, and there's also some that I have heard, but just not enough times to really form an opinion on. I don't like to judge an album after just like one or two listens if I didn't really like get into it, so there probably won't be as much on the bottom tiers just because if I didn't like it the first time, I probably wouldn't go on listening to it. None of these is likely to be something so bad that I wouldn't even consider another listen since they are all considered like beloved albums. But Fugazi Repeater, perfect example of one that I know I've heard, but I just never spent much time with. Have not heard this Bruce Springsteen album. I generally don't care for Converge. I've seen them live. I've heard some of their music. It doesn't do anything for me. I've never really gotten the appeal. Can't really say much about the album in particular, though. This one I tried to listen to when Deep Cuts did a video on it, but it was just a little bit too mind expansion meme, I guess, for me. Finally, one I do know, though, Aja by Steely Dan. Definitely top tier. Probably my favorite Steely Dan album. It's probably their most consistent. It's got, great singles like Peg, which is a fun, shorter song. Deacon Blues, a long, drawn-out, somber track that is the ultimate anthem of patheticness. And it also has songs like Aja, which is just a very nice, sort of proggy. It's like a prog yacht rock, basically. It's also got Black Cow, just all around very solid album. I'm not as into the later tracks on it, which is why it's not quite God tier, but I do like it a lot. I've still never really listened to Pavement. I don't even recognize this album, to be honest. Beach House, haven't really given a listen. Don't know this one. I think this might be Portishead or something. Haven't heard it, though. This looks like Johnny Cash. Don't know that one. Here we've got Led Zeppelin 4. I think, I want to say I've listened to this all the way through. Led Zeppelin is just, they have like a few songs I like, but I've never been able to get into like a whole album of theirs. I would probably feel comfortable slotting this into mid-tier. I feel like I've heard enough of it to know I'm not ever gonna get that big into it, I could probably even, I know I've tried to listen to this Beach House album a couple times and not been able to get into it at all. But I don't know if I'd put it in, I don't know where in the lower tiers it would go, so I'd have to listen to it again. Beck's Odelay, I'm surprised to even see this on the list. I don't know which tracks are on it. I know a few Beck songs, because obviously he was huge on the radio for a long time, but couldn't tell you what's on that album. Daft Punk's Discovery, I would put this in, put it in high tier. It's got some amazing singles on it. One More Time, Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger. I'm a huge fan of the song Too Long, the 10-minute track that closes the album. But there's a lot of songs on there I think are just not that memorable. They go on a little too long or a little too repetitive, which has always been kind of my problem with Daft Punk. I'm not that into, just hearing the same sound for 4.5 minutes. So a lot of their songs are basically that, particularly in, the midsection of that album. Oh, it also has, I know what to do about this dream and you. Don't remember what that one's called. And Something About Us. There's a lot of good tracks on there. Just a few that drag it down a bit. And I wouldn't say that even it's the best songs on there are something I would listen to all the time or anything. Demon Days I would put in top tier. This album was, something I listened to a fuckload in my mid-teens. I have literally heard it so many times that most of it is kind of white noise to me. I would probably put it in high tier if I were hearing it for the first time today, just because so much nostalgia is tied up in it that it's hard for me to even judge it, without that lens. But, I know this album front to back, in and out. it's definitely a favorite of mine. Black Sabbath, Paranoid. I think I would also put. Ooh, I don't know if I'd put this in high or top tier. I think I haven't. This is not like a nostalgic album for me. It's one that I got into in my later teens, and there's definitely. It's a really solid album. It's a good thing to just throw on to have as kind of background noise if you're looking for some like heavier rock slash, you know, doom metal type of sound. It's never been something I would consider a favorite album, so it's hard for me to put it in top or god tier, but it does have a lot of really legendary songs on it. I'll just leave it in high tier for now. Do not know this one. Bjork's fucking oh fuck, what is this album called? I can't remember the name of it, but I've only heard it a few times compared to a lot of the other stuff on here. I only recently, like a couple years ago, started listening to Bjork, but this is my favorite album of hers that I've heard. I think I'd put it in high tier for now. I really love songs like The State of Emergency, but I haven't, you know, if I would like it more, I will, that remains to be seen, but we'll put it in high tier for now. Have not heard this Lou Reed. Don't recognize this one. I have not listened to this. My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is god tier for me. One of my favorite albums. Has a lot of fantastic songs. Fucking All of the Lights, Power, Runaway. You know, just to name the singles. Like, there's not a track on here that I dislike. There's definitely some in the midsection that aren't as memorable as others, but it's a long-ass fucking album, and, you know, every track is at least good and has some memorable qualities to it. Something that makes it interesting. But it's got enough songs that I spend a considerable time with. I've, of course, got a video about it that you can check out as well. I don't know this one. The Glow Part 2, I've only listened to this a couple of times so far, but I did enjoy it a lot. I'm going to put it at high tier for now. Might be something I like more if I've heard it more. Don't know this Elvis Costello album. Don't recognize this one. King Crimson's in the Court of the Crimson King. Top tier. One of my favorite prog albums. One of my favorite King Crimson albums. Obviously, 21st Century Schizoid Man tears the fuck open. All the tracks on here are good. I'm a big fan of Moonchild, and it's like 10 minutes of improv. You know, the whole thing is extremely memorable. It's only 5 tracks, and they're all long as shit and quite good. I also am quite partial to Dark Side of the Moon. I know it's like kind of the most like normcore Pink Floyd, but I also think it's just like the best one. I still would only put it in high tier just because I don't return to it that often. I definitely, you know, favor the more like full tracks. Like all the experimental stuff is fine and all, but it's, you know, not on the level of like prog experimentation per se. I definitely don't think I'd put it on the same tier as in the Court of the Crimson King, but it's still pretty good. Don't know this one. Boris Is Pink. I'm gonna put this in high tier. It's not my favorite Boris album. I know it's like their most popular. I would put Heavy Rocks maybe above it. Definitely Flood would be in either my top or god tier. Pink has an interesting variety of songs. I don't think that the like heavier punk rock songs are necessarily the most memorable ones that Boris has done. I think people know this album for like opening with Ketsu Betsu, which is pretty explosive and memorable, and then, you know, just the fact that it kind of transitions between post-rock and punk, and it's like, I think people suggest it as your first Boris album because it represents like a good swath of their sound, but I mean, Boris has like 50 fucking albums. Like, you can definitely pick and choose your favorite songs between different albums and stuff. Don't know this. Don't know the Blur one. Lift Your Skinny Fists. I would put it mid-tier, honestly. Never been able to get into it, and I've listened to it a bunch of times. Godspeed You Black Emperor has just, honestly, even as somebody who likes post-rock, I feel like their shit is just a little too long-winded. Like, the mellower passages are too mellow for me, too minimal. I'm not really that into that minimal kind of sound. Caius, Welcome to Sky Valley. Ooh. I like this more than the other stuff I have in mid-tier, but not as much as the other stuff I have in high tier. So this is a difficult one. I guess I'm going to put it in mid-tier and consider it to be upper mid-tier. It is an album that I would go and listen to, but it's not my first choice for like stoner rock or that kind of doomy sound that it represents. Don't recognize this one. In Alpha Beta Polythology is, I'm going to put this in mid-tier. I really just love the opening song, Little League. I think that's a fantastic song. After that, the album is kind of hit or miss. It also like is a collection of just basically every song this band Cap and Jazz ever made. And like, so you've got like stuff that kind of feels like album quality, and then it just kind of devolves into like demos and random knickknacks. Their sound is pretty good, but I just don't think I love all of their songwriting in general. I have not really spent much time with soundtracks for the blind. I've spent more time listening to To Be Kind and Filth, not as much with the other Swans albums. I've been meaning to. They're just so fucking long and so taxing to listen to, so I'm going to mark it as haven't heard. Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, I've only listened to a couple times. Can't really make a judgment on it. Okay, fucking In the Aeroplane Over the Sea, I would put it mid-tier. I really love the first 3 tracks on this album when it's more straightforward, sort of punk, you know, edged. But everything after that is just... Well, I also kind of like In the Airplane Over the Sea, the song, track 4. But after that, it just gets so fucking difficult to listen to. I mean, it's like whiny. It's just like this guy very loudly and nasally singing depressing shit over depressing sounding riffs. I can't get into it. I've tried a bunch of times. Sonic Youth is another band I've always been meaning to kind of listen to more, but have never really spent any time with the album. Revolver by the Beatles is... I haven't listened to this one as many times either. It has a few good tracks on it that I know of, but the only Beatles album I've really listened to more than like twice is their last one. I can't even remember. I think it's this one, right? No, that's the Abbey Road EP. What was the name of their final album? I can't even remember. Whatever. We'll put it in haven't heard. Haven't really listened to London Calling. Haven't really listened to Dinosaur Jr. I've heard this Talking Heads album a few times. I, of course, love Same As It Ever Was. Same As It Ever Was. It's not really my type of music per se, especially when it's the non-vocal tracks, which is a lot of the album. I don't know. I'm going to put it in mid-tier. Person Pitch, I think I listened to once and didn't like it. So we'll just put it in low tier because I don't really see giving it another shot. Siamese Dream I haven't listened to. Never listened to this dude. Kid A. The Kid A will go in high tier. It's probably my favorite Radiohead album. I dig the vibe of it. I dig the combination of more electronic sounds into the music. You know, some of the early tracks are really stand out. OK Computer, meanwhile, I would put it mid-tier. I generally am like, I'm that guy who really likes Paranoid Android and doesn't really like anything else on the album that much. I mean, it's okay. It has its moments. I'm not a huge Radiohead guy, if you can't tell. I don't recognize this one. Ooh, this one is, I think, Sunny Day Real Estate. I haven't listened to this album many times, but I have enjoyed it a lot the few times I had. I'm going to put it in high tier because I assume I would like it if I listened to it more. Weezer's Blue Album. I think I'll also put that in high tier. It has a lot of really memorable songs on it. My Name is Jonas. Fucking, you know, all the big singles that they ever did pretty much are on that album, aside from like the later ones. Yeah, I don't love every track on it. I think that the singles and stuff are a lot more memorable than the other stuff, and I won't claim I've listened to it a bunch, but, you know, it's fine. I think this is that Faust album. I haven't really listened to this much. Pet Sounds, I tried, can't get into it. I'd put it in low tier, just not my type of music, really. Don't know this one, don't know this one. Ooh, the Pixies, I really love the songs Debaser and Monkey Gone to Heaven. The rest of the album haven't really been able to get into, so I'll put that at mid-tier. I usually just end up giving up on the album about halfway through. Pink Moon by Nick Drake, high tier. Used to listen to this all the time. Good bedtime music. pretty much my introduction to folk and like that kind of singer-songwriter folk. And it was funny because for a long time that was the only Nick Drake I really listened to. But when I finally did listen to one of his older albums, I ended up liking it even more. I don't see it on the list. I'm kind of surprised Pink Moon is on there and not the other one, because it seemed like I never got the impression Pink Moon was his most beloved album. I don't know this one. Avalanche's Since I Met You, definitely high tier. Love the opening track, love Frontier Psychiatrist. A few other songs that are really solid on there. It's hit or miss for me, but overall, pretty solid album. Don't know this, don't know this, don't know this, don't know this. Haven't listened to Frank Zappa. Don't know this Tom Waits album. I've only really listened to Blood Money. Aphex Twin, I've never really given a chance. Snowing's Fuck Your Emotional Bullshit, I think I'd have to put it at top tier. This is only 5 songs. It's only 12 minutes long. They are all kick-ass. It's just a fucking... It's like the best hit of emo. If you just want to listen to just like a pure emo, screamo type of... Like, I guess it's just emo, but there is screaming in it. But like, if you want just some heavy, fun, rollicking emo that gets in and gets out as fast as fucking possible, that is the ultimate choice. Bob Dylan, I've never been able to get into Bob Dylan at all. I think I'd have to put him in shit tier because I don't think I could listen to it. I don't know this one. At the Drive-In Relationship of Command is gonna go in my God tier. It's probably my favorite hardcore album, post-hardcore. Just so many fucking amazing tracks, so many memorable tracks. You kick this album off, and it's just like you are pumped from start to fucking finish. It is aggressive, intense. It's got Omar and Cedric, who of course would go on to form probably my favorite band of all time, the Mars Volta. So, you see a lot of the blood of it begin to boil in at the drive-in. I mean, honestly, I would probably rank some of these a little bit differently if this wasn't just the MuCore tier list. Like, I don't know if that would make it into my God tier if this is just a list of my favorite albums. But, we're on like a slightly skewed scale here because this is, also being compared to all this other stuff that I just outright wouldn't listen to. Don't think I've heard this one. Ooh, I think I've heard this Patti Smith album, but I never really formed an opinion on it. A.V. Terror and Panda Bear with fucking... God damn it, what is this album called? Something They're Gone, Something They've Vanished? I don't fucking remember. I like it, though. I'm gonna put it in... Ooh, would I put this in high tier or top tier? I guess I have to put it in high tier. I mean, it's not the easiest album to listen to. A lot of it has just like harsh noise and squealing. That is, I like it. I like the atmosphere it creates. I don't love every song on it. April and the Phantom's probably the best. Penny Dreadfuls, I think, is a pretty good song on there. I like the opener, just for how atmospheric it is, how much it lulls you into this weird state of mind. But I won't say that like I remember the later tracks all that memorably. Oh, this fucking Joanna Newsom album. I've never been able to get into it. I would put it in probably... I want to put it in mid-tier, but honestly it probably goes in low tier for me just because there's nothing on it that I've like returned to. Like, there's a couple of her songs that I kind of like, but they're not on that album. Maybe I'd be able to get into it if I spent a lot more time with it. I know Best Guy Ever fucking loves Joanna Newsom, so I've always been trying to give her another shot, but it's difficult for me. It's just not really my style. King Crimson's Red. This is another one of my favorite King Crimson albums. I think I'd put it in high tier. One More Red Nightmare, the track Red itself are really great. Not every song on there is equally memorable, so not going in the top. I don't know this one. Sufjan Stevens, Come On Field, Illinois. I'm putting this one in high tier because there are, again, like everything else in the high tier, some songs I really, really love, songs I'm kind of meh on. I'm not as into the later part of the album as the earlier part, but, when you've got songs like Chicago, when you got songs like fucking John Wayne Gacy Jr., you gotta end up in at least the high tier. I don't know this one. I think this is that LCD Sound Systems album. I don't know it well enough. Don't know this. It's the one with the the space hat on it. Is this it?
That's the one.
Yeah, all right. Well, where would you rank it if you were in this? A as in top tier?
Yeah, I listen to it all the time.
All right. I don't know this one. Merriweather Post Pavilion. I'm going to put it... I'll put it in high tier, even though I don't like it as much as the first album. I do think it's overrated as compared to other albums by Animal Collective. I actually like Centipede Hurts, and I like Strawberry Jam more than this one. But, you know, I like My Girls, I like Fireworks, a few of the other tracks. I mean, it's a listenable album. There's nothing I have a problem with on it, necessarily. Don't know no Neil Young. I don't know this. Yola Tenga, don't think I've listened to. Nevermind by Nirvana. I don't know if I've ever really listened to this whole album all the way through. I like some of the singles. I'm not a huge Nirvana guy. I'd probably put it in mid-tier. Death Consciousness. This will definitely go in my top tier. This used to be my number one going to bed album. I've gone to bed to this album many, many times, and only maybe once managed to stay awake through the whole thing, since it is 80 minutes long. You know, it's got a great variety of droning, monotonous songs that make you feel like death, all of which I think are pretty good in their own way. Very interesting album. Mezzanine, I don't think I've listened to more than once. I don't know this one. I'm not sure which David Bowie this even is, and I definitely don't think I've listened to it. Ooh, this looks familiar. I don't know it. Belle and Sebastian, nope. I can't remember what this one is. Trout Mask Replica. I'm gonna have to fall into the company of people who think that this is shit tier, unlistenable garbage. I completely respect it and its existence, but come on, man. I can't listen to fucking Trout Mask Replica. Andy Warhol, the fucking Velvet Underground album, I'm not that into it. I'd probably put it in low tier. I have some friends who were really, really big into it, but I couldn't get into it. I don't know this one. Close to the Edge by Yes. I don't like Close to the Edge as much as Fragile. It could be that I just haven't spent enough time with it. The songs are quite long. The thing about Yes is that they basically were the blueprint for the entire fucking prog rock sound. Like, every other, you know, just standard prog rock band just basically sounds like Yes. So, like, in retrospect, their music seems more generic in a way than I think it would have been at the time. And, I mean, granted, Yes is still great. They still have a really unique sound. In terms of the guy's voice, the, you know, timbre of the instruments and all that. But yeah, I'd put this in mid-tier. I haven't been able to get that in love with it. Don't know this one. Don't know Devo. Don't know this guy. Haven't listened to Slow Dive. Bitches Brew. Bitches Brew is was like the first jazz album I ever heard. You know, probably not the best introduction because it makes it seem like the entire genre is extremely fucking insane. I don't think I'd really choose to listen to it very much. I'd probably put it in mid-tier. You know, I've heard it a few times. The Devil and God Are Raging Inside Me by Brand New. I would put this in... I gotta put it in my high tier just because Sowing Season and some of the other early tracks. And Would You Be My Babe? Would You Be My Babe? Which is fucking hilarious. Overall, it's not an album that I've really listened to all the way through a whole lot, but when I hear the songs I like, I do get pretty excited. Ex-Military is God tier, possibly my favorite album of all time. Of all time! The first, 6 songs are all God tier tracks, and the rest are all also God tier tracks. It's just a God tier album all the way through. Every song is super fucking memorable, super interesting and distinctive, even though it's all in that very raw, very heavy, aggressive Death Grip sound, none of them sound quite alike, but it's also, the most listenable Death Grips. I mean, granted, I listen to all the Death Grips all the time, but this is the one that's, fun to put on and listen to. Some of the other ones are more you're testing your own sanity. Spiderland by Slynt, I'm going to put in top tier. I love this album. I think it's super creepy and mysterious and cool. It's great to listen to when you're reading like House of Leaves or any kind of horror themed, trippy book. I quite dig it. I don't know this one. Never listened to Boards of Canada or New. I don't know this. Don't know this Doors album. More Miles Davis that I haven't heard. Don't know this one. Ooh, I've definitely heard this one a few times because of Fantano talking about it in his classic album, because I'm just a Fantano drone. It's pretty good. It's got some good tracks on it that I remember. I don't think I can put it in high tier when I haven't really listened to it that much. Like, it didn't encourage me to, give it repeated listens, but I'll put it in mid tier for now. I've never even seen this album cover, or this one for that matter. Or this one, for that matter. Though it says REM. I'm not sure which REM album it is, but I wouldn't know their albums anyway. Spiritualized. The opening couple of tracks on this are super memorable. The rest of it is not so much. I think I'd probably put it in mid-tier. Mingus. Have only listened to Mingus in the event that Zen Huxtable was at my house when we were tripping on acid. So that's going in haven't heard. Loveless. I don't really care for Loveless, and there are some of my Bloody Valentine albums that I love. I think their self-titled MBV is probably my favorite, the one from 2014. That one would probably go in high tier. Some of their EPs are pretty good, but Loveless, for me, just pretty much... Actually, I think I'd probably put it in low tier. There's not really anything I'd return to on it, the way there is for most of the mid-tier stuff I've put up. Another fucking... Godspeed You Black Emperor album that I can't get into. That's going in low tier. In fact, I should move the other one down to low tier too, because like when I think about it, like would I rather listen to that or any of these other ones I put in mid tier? I would definitely listen to any of these other ones I put in mid tier. Apologies to any Godspeed fans in my audience. I just haven't been able to get into it. I want to listen to Big Black Songs About Fucking more because it's the greatest album cover and album title and band name of all time. I've listened to it a few times and enjoyed it, but not enough to rank it, so I'm putting it in the haven't heard category. I don't know this one at all. American Football. This is going in my high tier. It's another one that I like to listen to just relax, cool off, maybe go to sleep. That opening riff is so fucking sticky and memorable that how could you not? But, I mean, it is kind of a white noise album. This one, I do not know. Carrie and Lowell, not my favorite Sufjan Stevens album. I appreciate the emotions and everything of this, but to me it's just really depressing, really hard to listen to. I would put it in low tier for those reasons. Don't know. The Strokes, Is This It? I had never really listened to The Strokes. My fiance is a big fan. I have listened to their singles and some of their other tracks a lot more since we started dating, but I still have not gone and just like actually listened to this album. So I'm going to put it in haven't heard for now. I think this is another Boards of Canada or something. This is that Ween album. I want to try Ween. They seem interesting. I've only heard a couple of their songs, but it definitely grabbed my attention. But we'll put it in haven't heard for now. I don't know this one. I think this is a Quasimodo album. I'm not going to rank it with any confidence. The Stone Roses? Never heard of it. Don't know this. Don't know this. Oh, this is fucking... What's it called? Is this Tame Impala? That's a shout out to my old homies. I have never actually listened to this album, so I can't even rank it. Fleetwood Mac, I have not listened to. Is this the Beatles album I like? It's the one where they're on Abbey Road, but I don't remember if that's... I don't remember if it's just... if this is the one. Is this their last album? I'm going to look it up. The Beatles Discography. First of all, I need to remember the name of this goddamn album. Let It Be? Is that the one I like? Which one has She's So Heavy on it? No, this doesn't look right. Maybe it is Abbey Road. Abbey Road has Come Together. Here Comes the Sun, and She's So Heavy. Yeah, okay. This is the one I like. So I'll put this one up in the high tier. Obviously, I haven't listened to it that much since it took me so much just to recognize it, but it is the one Beatles album that I find easily re-listenable. Maybe I should just put it in the mid-tier for now, just because everything else in high tier I've much more actively listened to than that. All right. I don't know this one. Don't know this one. Don't know this one. I know that this is the Jimi Hendrix Experience, but I don't think I've listened to it. Don't know this Interpol album. I love the song Evil. I don't think I've listened to this whole album, or maybe I tried and just didn't like it. Yeah, I think I tried to listen to it and just wasn't into it. So we're going to put it in low tier, even though it has Evil, which I like. Andrew Jackson Jihad. This is another one where, like, I appreciate the music, but it's just so, like, depressing and hard to listen to that I can't really give it much of a spin. I'll put it in mid-tier, though. I like it more than Carrie and Lowell, but not enough to give it regular listens. The Mars Volta's Deloused in the Comatorium is gonna go in my God tier. I love the Mars Volta. Their first 3 albums are all God tier. I would say it's, of their first 3 albums, probably my least favorite, but that doesn't matter. Not unlike Demon Days, it's like borderline white noise because I've heard it thousands of times. But I mean, I can't say no. Can't say no to Deloused when I know it note for note the whole way through. That obviously means something to me. This is Unknown Pleasures. I've definitely tried to get into it, haven't really been able to. I'd probably put it in low tier just because there's nothing I'd return to, honestly. Don't even think it's a bad album. This one, no, don't know it. I've never really listened to David Bowie's Low. Don't know this one. Weezer's Pinkerton, I would put in the top tier. It's got a bunch of fucking great songs on it. Tired of Sex, fucking the Across the Sea, Pink Triangle, all just super memorable songs. It's a fun album up to the last track. The last track sucks, but the rest of it is a lot of fun, you know. I love it's also another, like, I would call ode to patheticness, sort of like an almost emo pop punk album. I dig it a lot. I love the atmosphere, love the production values, and just Weezer can do those fucking riffs that just stay in your goddamn brain. I don't know this one. Mad Villain. Controversial choice, but I'm putting it at low tier. I've never been able to get into it. I don't know what it is. Madlib's production just doesn't really do anything for me. MF Doom only occasionally does something for me. I'm sorry. I wish I could relate to you. The Smiths, The Queen is Dead. This is high tier for me. I love this. It's my favorite Smiths album. But with the Smiths, I don't really think of them as an albums band. Like, all their albums are just kind of a loose collection of songs that sound nothing alike. You know, they're best experienced as like a compilation band or just make your own burned CDs of your favorite tracks. But this one has the most tracks that I like on it. It has The Queen is Dead. It has, what's the song called? I Know It's Over. You know, Frankly, Mr. Shankly is pretty good. Cemetery Gates is great. I think it might have If a 10-ton truck crashes into us. I just love Morrissey's fucking lyrics and his whole style. You know, obviously the guitar playing is lit too, but, you know, for me it's about the poetic lyrics first and foremost, if I'm being honest. Ramones, have not listened to. Cross by Justice. I would put this in mid-tier. I generally think it's pretty good. I'm not really that into this style of dance, you know, super repetitive dance music, as I've said earlier, but, you know, I've listened to it more than once. Don't know this one, don't know this one, don't know this one, don't know this one. Hurt by Nine Inch Nails. I have not listened to enough to judge. I have listened to other Nine Inch Nails albums a lot more. When I was, like, in my early teens was when With Teeth came out, and my mom's a huge Nine Inch Nails fan, so she was spinning that a lot just because it was the new album at the time. So I'm more familiar with that one. I'm more familiar with their first album, Pretty Hate Machine, because that was her favorite. I think she just never owned Hurt, or maybe she got it on CD and it got stolen or something. I don't know, but she was really into Pretty Hate Machine. So, I've heard that one quite a bit, and some of their newer albums. But this one I've just never gotten around to really deep diving because it is quite long and, a lot of sonic styles. I do want to listen to it more, though. Have not heard this Can album. Don't know. Never bothered with this Car Seat Headrest album. And lastly, To Pimp a Butterfly, I would put in top tier. It has really like the 5 or 6 best Kendrick Lamar songs on it. For Free, fucking King Kunta, fucking All Right, I and You. All of those are some of my favorite Kendrick Lamar songs. The rest of the album is a little more hit and miss for me. The Blacker the Berry, also an amazing song. There's certain tracks that I just don't really even care for very much at all. Some that are just okay. Like, I would say that I don't really listen to the entire album all the way through nearly as often as just the singles. But those, 7 or 8 great songs are, enough to put it in top tier easily. Like, if it was just an album of just those 8 songs, it might even be God tier, for me. But nonetheless, really solid album. And there you go. That is my ranking of about 30 or 40% Mew albums that I have heard and 60 to 70% that I haven't. Shout out to the guy who made this, who kept hawking it to me in the comments until I couldn't avoid goddamn doing it.